All right, everybody. Welcome back to another uh, Excel experience where we enter in some data and we do some data analysis. And I am Max from MinMax. So if you're here, great. It, if you're just watching this later, that's also great. I'm just glad to have anybody. But I'll be doing this anyways because it's what I like doing. But uh, to give some background, Daggerheart is a new tabletop RPG game that has just come out by Critical Role, and they've just opened up to open beta. And so, if you would if you would like to play, you can go here and play. And you can download all of their materials as well, and it's from the Critical Role folks. And so, if you know anything about D&D and stuff, this is not like a D&D clone, but it's an option that's out there. So if you're kind of curious, to kind of find out more, like you can go dig in here. I encourage you to go download it and kind of play it and help them out. But um, I like breaking things down into Excel because that's just how my brain works a little bit better and it's more fun for me. And also, it's easier for me to find edges where I kind of feel like things are grossly overpowered or underpowered, and um, might remove a good bit of the fun. Like if you're underpowered and everyone else is just kind of doing a lot more than you're able to, it can be kind of a bummer. But also, if you're out there, like you're killing everything with one hit, and kind of taking the fun away from your party members, that's also a little bit of a bummer. So uh, I just want to see if there's any kind of classes and foundations and ancestries and communities and armor and all the different stuff that drastically change the outcome, um, and so that we can try to um, uh, and give them some kind of more detailed feedback other than like, hey, this wasn't that fun. But all that to say, um, I have begun a spreadsheet here. If you watch the last two videos, like you'll kind of see me kind of build a good bit of this out, but I'm going to keep going forward. Um, I really don't want to touch on level and experiences yet. I don't know about codexes, but like my primary is I wanted to break out a couple of my formulas here because if you can tell, they're getting kind of long. I was just going to divide them out, and so then I can do totals, and then also it'll be easier for me to find some bugs and things. And so I'm going to break these out, and then I would like to get a lot more of our other class data in. I've only gotten the Bard only for a kind of first round of review, but I would like to go ahead and oh, this should be finesse. Um, I'd like to go ahead and get in a whole bunch more of our kind of base class data. Um, kind of primarily with these right here, these four. I don't think they change depending on um, anything else other than the class you pick as like your base information, and then we'll pull those into here as our class stats, right? Um, and then the attributes are things that I'm actually going to change these colors here so that we can easily tell them apart. So let's get a little orange on that, or like a little peach, whatever you want to call that. Um, but yeah, we should be able to get these, kind of damage thresholds and huh. I think I should probably pull these damage thresholds down into here because that has to do with your health and armor and your stress cap and all that. So um, I'm actually just going to go ahead and add in a couple columns here and um, pull these over. Okay. I might just leave that as the word minor so it's easier for me to find later. And then we can pull these down. So delete these columns. All right, now here's our information about like what weapons we pick. But this looks like it. it's actually based off of the selections. And so, yeah, I'm just going to get rid of these because I'm not really going to have anything here. Well, you know what? I actually might just be able to drag it down to my primary weapon, and then I might just be able to pull these down to here. And then I can change these just to like average damage, trait, range, and type. And I can probably get rid of these because um, I'm now adding them in. And then, ooh, actually, I think I just probably messed up a little bit. Let me undo that. Okay, yeah. I think I actually need to keep these broken out because the secondary weapon stat has its own damage, but it also can have impacts on the damage of the primary weapons. And so, yeah, I'm just going to review this whole tab here. I just tried to get it organized and just a little bit more clean, and so now I can easily add up each one of these columns. But the majority of it's already connected. Like if I go to Bard here, I can tell that my evasion's gone up because this first variable, or this first formula here, is actually going to look up in my base class data for my um, Bard class to find my evasion number. Okay, but I need to start pulling out these other things. So this one looks like it's going to weapon data, and it's pulling from B10. So let's go over to B10 and see what B10 is. So B10 is my primary weapon. And so let's get over to here, primary weapon. And it looks like if my primary weapon, matches my evasion, which is up here, then go grab it. If not, it's a 0. So let me put that down here and say equals and then paste. So it looks like I have a bug here. If I go look up and like it says right here that there's an agility modifier, right? Because a cool thing about Google Sheets is it will automatically compute anything you have highlighted. And so this is going to resolve as agility. And then I'm asking it to check that against my B2, which is evasion. And so if that's true, I'm going to go do this other lookup, which is currently -1, but I need to put another comma on this and just say 0. All right, and so now that'll display 0. Let's add a couple of extra $signs in here so I can drag this across. I think it already has everything I need. So now I should just be able to click this and drag it across. And if I come all the way down to here, it's now going to go over to my weapon data tab, and it's going to check in this ability feature, is there anything that is equal to the thing above, right? And so like it's not equal to health, it's not equal to stress cap, hope cap, or any of these other things, but it is equal to agility, because right now my primary weapon is this warhammer, right? And so over my weapon data, it looks for warhammer, and then it finds agility. It goes and it looks that up, and then when it matches, it then pulls in this number, right? Because that's all that we're doing here. Like, it's not all zeros all the way across, which is pretty cool. And then I'm gonna kind of clean this up here in a minute, so don't really worry about that. Okay. And so now we've done our primary weapon. Let's try to clean up this next one. Well, actually, just one more thing. While I'm thinking about primary weapons, um, I have this extra line here for another feature effect. Because as we get down to these down here, there's one thing that has two effects, right? And so I'm at the complicate the kind of formula just a little bit for this in order to get to include both, right? And so let's go ahead and do that. So we come back over here and we go to secondary weapon, which I think I've already done here, where I'm going to go look up on D10 out of data inputs. And so let's just make sure that's actually, okay, that is my secondary weapon. And I'm going to pick one here that's one-handed. Okay, that one's two-handed. Okay, and this one's now one-handed, which will allow me to pick a different thing here, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and pick dagger. And I'm going to come back over to my base class data. Oh, I'm sorry, not my base class data. I got character data points. And so this is going to look up for D10, and it's going to find. I need to expand this, and so I can get my automatic compute. If I do an X lookup right here, it is going to. It's going to not display what I want it to display. But anyways, it's going to look up, and then if it directly matches to what's here, it would then go pull the benefit. If not, it's a 0, right? And so I'm just going to grab this whole thing. And I'm going to add that here in my secondary. So this should be a 0. So let me just kind of double check. If I find my weapon and it matches my evasion up here, or my attribute on my weapon, and it matches, then I want to go pull it again and actually pull the value, right? And so not G, but I want to pull H. Otherwise, I want it to be a 0. So this should be displaying a 0 here. But let's see. It looks like I'm actually missing a extra parentheses there, isn't it? Because here, I'll do this first. I'm just gonna go look up my value first. Let's just see. X lookup, data inputs D10, D10, okay. I found dagger. And then I want to look up in my weapon data, column B. I'm going to try to find dagger. Oh, see, here's a problem. I have a primary weapon dagger and a secondary weapon dagger. So the struggle we're going to have here is either I can do a double lookup where I look for primary weapon plus the name, or I can do something kind of sneaky. If I go back to my um, uh, in my character data points, inside of XLOOKUP, it will ask you not just what to return if you don't find anything, which is just going to be this, but also like your match mode. But then I also want to do my search mode. Okay. And I think in here, I can select a reverse search. And so let's just go over to the documentation really quick. And if I look at search mode, I think I can find optional. Um, one is to search from the first to the last. Negative one is a search from the end coming back. So I'm going to put in here -1. And now I should find it's my range. Let's just make sure that I have the right. Um, so I'm going to go look up on B. I'm sorry. I'm going to go look up on B. Oh, and then it says it's actually looking for G, which is also not going to find anything. So I need to look for column E, right? So that's what I am having a problem with. So let me change this to E, and then we should find, aha, okay. Like a primary average damage, which if I go back to my weapon data, I'm going to get rid of the word primary damage. Yeah. And so now I need to come back and add if all of this equals my column. I will now go add the value. And so I'll do XLOOKUP on my secondary weapon, comma, in my weapon data, comma, and then I want to return the effect, comma. And then if I don't find anything there, I actually want an error on this one. On this other one, I'm okay with a blank if I don't find it. But if I find this the first time and it matches, but there's no value, I actually want an error. So I'm going to skip that one. I'm going to skip my match mode, and I'm going to do -1 so that it will look from the bottom up. And then if it's false, I'm just going to want a 0. Oh, I need to close my XLOOKUP. And now, if it's false, I want a 0. Okay, enter. And so now I can drag this across, and I should get a oh, see, this has actually been changed. I'm just going to make this kind of primary damage, and so that as I drag this, it should say +2. Oh, oh, is it not? Is it not going to find it? If my weapon matches R2, oh, EE. Let's go to weapon damage, EE. I wonder if it has to do with, like, the case and stuff. Let's just see. If I copy this, I'll put on my weapon data. Let's just see what it does. It's exactly the same. It should find it then, right? Because it's gonna do a match on this and then on this, and if that returns. But this is why we test as we go. Let's put not found in here. Oh, see, it gets past that, and so it finds it. But then on this, it's now trying to find. Oh, I see what I did wrong. Always go through and add all your dollar signs, right? Because this is going to need to go like look up my weapon again, and then the name, and then the attribute that it's returning. Okay. And now we can drag this out, and it will find primary damage. Hot dog. Oh, and like we'll just go ahead and drag this all the way across. I don't expect it to find anything here or here or here, but if like they kind of change anything about like the range or the kind of type of weapon, like the type of weapon damage or anything like that, I want to be able to capture it. Okay, and I might even adjust this to return the actual value. But anyways, we'll come back to that. Okay, now I said that this one's going to be a little bit more complex because there's actually one that has, oh, well, look, like, we should also get extra armor and extra damage if we pick a short sword or a tower shield or a round shield. And so let's just kind of view this real quick. And right now we just have a +2 to primary damage, right? Everything else is all zeros. There's a 1 here because of our primary weapon. If we go over to here now and we pick round shield, and we come back to our data points, well, now we have lost our primary damage, but now we've gained 2 armor. Okay. Then also, if I pick the tower shield, it should subtract 2 from here and also add 2 to armor. Well, it's not doing that because it's in a whole nother column, right? And so I need to add on to go also for the secondary weapons only. Also go look up these 2 columns. Okay, so I'm going to add that real quick. So it's actually going to be almost exactly this. And so I'm just going to do a plus, right? Because I could have 2 that happen to impact each other. It's going to be almost the exact same thing, except I'm going to go look up 2 different columns here, right? And so not E and F, but like what 2 columns am I going to look up? G and H. So let's say plus. All right, so first I'm going to look up G, and then if I find it, I want to pull my value from H, and boom, there we go. It's a -2 now. I'm just going to drag this all the way across, and now we have +4 armor, -2 evasion, right? Okay, now next thing, let's kind of see. Looks like I've included like a heritage lookup here that says if the heritage equals And then I have a very specific heritage because, like, the heritages are kind of um, a little bit more convoluted. Um, I might just remove that for now and kind of keep heritage out because um, I need to come back and find the best way to include both heritages and also your foundations, because these are also not just straight up damage changes, but there are a couple, like, increase all damage thresholds by 2. Um, and this one's awesome. Like, you can spend 1 hope to fly until you roll with fear, and you do extra damage as you're flying. So it's like, why not always fly around? Um, but there's going to be a greater um, analysis or kind of variability there, and I don't want to totally skew a thing like this when I can, but I can't add on things like Animal Companion and easily give the ranger the kind of same amount of treatment. And so um, I'm actually just going to pull those out for now. And so let me just go back to my character data points, and I'm just going to pull out anything that deals with heritage for now. Yeah, and see, like, there's extra, like, health here for, um, but armor and survivability. Now, I think I can pull these 3 from my class sheet, right? And so I'm going to say X lookup my class, which is here, um, in my base class data here, and I want to pull my minor, and I'll just close it for now. And then I'll put in my $ so they don't change. And then I should just be able to drag this off to the right, because as long as I match on the name, I should get my minor, my major, and my severe. Boom. And this is already doing the exact same thing. Like, you can see it's going out data input. It's going to try to find my class, and it's going to go view or go do a lookup on my class name, and then it will return my evasion score, right? Which is right here. So I don't think there's anything else that's like default. Like, all of these are suggested things, which doesn't hurt. And I'm not including anything with features, right? Because, again, a couple of features are straight up numbers. Others are just for flavor. Um, and, like, in my first pass, I just want to do like hard number effects. Base trait stats. So I think I want to include the I've got base trait stats that I come here and I look up. And I really just want to do a, like, equals what I put in, right? If there's anything that happens with weapons or anything else, I'm just going to get rid of all of that. I just want to grab, like, whatever options you selected, and that's it, right? I don't want any other impacts on this. And like, the class has, like, no base stats. You actually have to kind of pick those. Okay. And so what's next? Armor. Okay. And so I think in a couple of these others, armor and survivability B11. So let me just go over to armor and survivability and try to figure out why I did this. Okay, these are all like default things that are unchanging. but your armor is actually based off of your armor. And so um, I'm grabbing the name of the armor you selected from your data inputs. I'm going to look it up in the armor list, which is over here in armor and survivability. And then I pull the amount of armor that applies. And then it looks like I did some other things with heritages and with weapons and all that different stuff. I'm going to get rid of all that, and I'm just going to make it a lot more simple. Okay. And I think, like that's not class. That's actually down here with, yeah, I think I need to include my impacts of my armor, right? Increase to evasion or my decrease, and then also my agility, not just my armor score. And so that's why I have a whole column here that's just for other types of impacts, right? And so I'm going to color this one just a little bit differently because I don't want to accidentally drag my my new function over it. But and like I might even do something like this where I say add one above, and I'm just going to say like base stats, because like my armor slots, my hope minimum, hope cap, stress cap, and health, all of these are all default. They don't really change. That doesn't have anything to do with your class. It just is what it is, right? Okay, armor stats. I'm trying to do almost the exact same thing we've done, down here, but we're just going to do it for armor. So again, I'm going to do another XLOOKUP on my data input. I'm going to find out which armor I picked, which is right here. And I'm going to go look that up in my armor chart, which is here. And then I want to return this. Okay. Like we're just going to do that. All right. So now it's evasion because I picked, I picked a chainmail armor. And if I go to chainmail armor, it's evasion. And so now let's go back to here. I want to say if what I found matches the column I'm on, which is evasion, I now want to pull the value. So again, another XLOOKUP on my armor that I've selected. That's why it's helpful to have this out. Just try to keep track of where you are. I want to go look that up here, and then I want to pull the corresponding value. Else, else I want this to be a 0. Okay, and there we go. If I go change my armor to full plate, we should see it decrease down to -2 like it has here. And if I choose breastplate, it should be a 0. And if I pick leather armor, it should be a 1. So let me just go here, say breastplate, just to look, it's a 0. If I say leather, It's a 1, right? Okay, so that's the first column that we want to look up. And I'm going to add in all my dollar signs. And yes, I know there's a hotkey for this, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. So I'm gonna like look up my variable, and then if it matches, I want to go look up my name again. This is the name of my type, and then I want to pull the value. Okay, so now it's not going to change. But now we also need to have the impact that it has on other types of variables down here, right? Um, and, and so I'm going to add a plus sign, and I'm going to grab this whole thing, and I want to basically ask the exact same questions. If it matches, I want to pull it, and I want to pull the value. But the thing I want to match on is going to be in columns D and E, not B and C. And so I'm just going to go back here, and I'm going to change this to be D. And then if I find it, I want to pull the value from E. Okay. And now I can drag this across. Again, I don't want to affect my armor, and so I'm just going to drag this around. And I don't expect it to have any impact on my damage, but you know what? Let's just go ahead and drag it down there anyways. Okay. And so you'll see here, I have a +1 to evasion and an armor of 3. But if I come over here and I change my armor to be the plate armor, all right, now my evasion's -2, my armor is 9, and my agility is -1, right? And so now I've kind of gotten some things organized, and I'll put all my numbers in the middle just for cleanliness sake. And like, I like calling things out like this with just a little bit of color, um, instead of that. If I ever come back and I do anything, I don't blow away this one equation here. So, um, kind of base traits, like that doesn't have to have its own. Like it could probably, kind of be up here in my base stats. I might just do that just to kind of clean up the number of rows I have. So let me just move that up. I'm going to delete this row. And then again, I'm going to come back to like my foundation and my ancestry and my community stats, because again, the foundations, and then my ancestry and my community, like a couple of these are just like for flavor, but a lot of them have like different kinds of roles and other types of impacts, or very things that are a bit more only useful in a couple of scenarios. And so we'll come back to that after we have some high level things. And so my idea here is that, like this makes all of this a lot more plain now. All I do now is I just do a sum of my evasion column, and just kind of see if that adds up right. All right, so that's now 5, and 9 minus 2 is 5. And I'm so curious what, oh yeah, because that's a -2 because of the tower shield, right? And so if you're in full plate and in tower shield, you have a -4 to evasion, which is probably going to have an even bigger impact on your survivability than just actually having this extra armor, right? But anyways, let's keep going. Armor is a whole lot easier now. It's just a sum of my armor column. Okay. Armor slots. Again, I'm going to do a sum of my armor slots column, because eventually there are armor slots that come from these other options. Okay. It's like right now that's always going to be 3, and then these agility equals a sum of my agility column. Let's go down here and say agility. I get +1 from my primary weapon, but I get -1 from my armor stats. Actually, let's do something funny. Let's kind of pick something here, that I don't get that +1 from, and now only have +1 agility, right? And like if I picked a -1 or something, it'd be even like lower. Like if I have like a full plate on, and I also have a tower shield, I would assume that I probably have pretty low agility too, but pretty high strength. And so let's just kind of play around with this character just a little bit. Let's just say that my strength was actually 2, and my instinct was a 0. My agility is -1 because I'm always wearing my plate armor. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Uh, well, let's also say that my finesse is a 0. Okay. And say I have a pretty good instinct. Okay. All right, so now when I look at my data points, my agility is actually going to be -2 here, which is actually pretty funny. Yeah. And so like after all of my modifiers, I want this to be the output of all my selections. And since this is kind of like my in-between computational sheet, right? Just to make everything easier on me. And so kind of damage thresholds, again, I should just be able to do a sum of this, and I can drag that across. And so there's a couple of kind of foundations and stuff that can change these damage thresholds. But again, let's do a sum for our health. I should probably try to make these in the same order, and so that I can just kind of like easily drag it across, but it's okay. Let's say stress cap. And like it actually looks like these are actually all in a line, so that's great. And then I have kind of like some damage numbers here, which I need to come back and recalculate because it's not going to include my extra damage, right? It's like I'm gonna clean this up real quick, and then I'm gonna come into my character data points. I'm actually gonna clean up like information that I'm getting here. So I'm gonna expand these so I can just make sure that I'm understanding it correctly. And this needs to pull the damage, not the um, not the Oh, what's the right way to say that? The average damage. And there's like a, a, a couple of other things here, right? Like this is looking up, those additional columns, which I need to do that, but this is actually just kind of pulling direct data, right? But I don't want it to pull the average, and so let's go to our um, weapon damage. Um, do I want to pull the total average damage, which is my base damage plus my average roll? I think that's going to be the best way to do it, actually. And so let's come over here and say, okay, I am going to have to change this to say primary average damage in order to get these to match. Okay. And so let's get this to say average damage and secondary average damage. Let's just make sure that we got this right. So my current weapon is a mace with a tower shield. And so let's just go check. Mace, its total average damage is 4.5, and tower shield is 3.6. So let's just go double check. I hit 4.5 and 3.6. I trust all of these because they're pretty straightforward. But now let's change it up. Let's delete this and let's go to a Warhammer, which is -1 agility. So I can check for that. And then a average damage of 8.5. And it's a two-handed, right? And so because it's two-handed, I can't pick anything here. I'll come over 8.5. I've already forgotten what it was. 8.5. But I also want to make sure it's giving me a -1 to agility. And it does. Okay, pretty cool, pretty cool. We're getting there. We are getting there. All right. What's another good example just to test one more thing? Let's do a thing down here in Magic. That's a two-handed. Let's do a one-handed. What's this guy? A one-handed Magic returning blade for finesse. Okay. And then I want to use a short sword in my offhand. No, a dagger, because it'll both be finesse then, right? And so let's go here and let's pick a returning blade, was it? And let's get a dagger in our offhand. Now we can go see. All right, so the dagger gives me a +2 to my average primary damage. And now I have a close magical finesse weapon in my main hand. And then in my offhand, I have a dagger that can still do damage, but it gives extra damage to my primary, right? And so now if I go back over to my data inputs, I'm actually going to change this to inputs and outputs because I'm displaying outputs here. All right, so now I can do my total on my primary average damage. And now like we can start to see how my offhand dagger can really help, right? And I think I can just drag this all the way across. Let's see. Nope. Okay, because the primary trait is not a sum. Here, let's just equals it. Equal this. Now let's drag this all the way across. Oh, it still didn't work. What's, oh, because it's grabbing these. All right, let's go back. Let's just drag it to here. And that's V summed. Let's just make sure that V is the right column. Yeah, it is. Okay. And let's make this equal to W. So this equal to W. It's right there. Now I can drag these two over. All right. That's pretty cool. So now I can start kind of changing things here and I don't have to I can click around. So I can say like a, a rapier. It's a presence weapon. I'm not sure if there's a presence offhand. It's agility. A whip, that's agility as well. A short sword is agility as well. Wow. Crossbow, finesse. Ooh, that's fun. And so you could have like a kind of dagger and then a crossbow in your in your offhand. That's pretty cool. Or you could have two crossbows. It looks like even. Right, so you have two things that you could shoot far with. That's pretty neat. I actually want to put like one of these on there. Like, let's do a longbow. Let's just do something really funny. Let's just do a longbow. All right, and so that's going to impact my evasion. Then with full plate, oh, I can pick. I can't pick a tower shield as well because that has an evasion -2. That'd be pretty funny if I could get like evasion -3 or 4 just right away. Okay. All right. Well, I think we're at a good point. We're coming up on 1 hour. I'm going to step away for just a second um, and get some tea. I'll be right back. Until then, just hang out. All right, already back. That was a quick break, but I'm actually excited to jump into more of the kind of base class data. I'll come back and fill in like extra things about the features and the this suggested like weapon armor and the traits and all that stuff. Um, I'll do that in the future, but I primarily am concerned about these first four columns, right? Because that's the primary things that change. And so let's just open up the Bard real quick. Um, and like as you can tell, there's um, some great like artwork and some like overall information about like the release date. It'd be cool if it had the version on this page. Like you can kind of tell from the title, but um, it'd be great if in the corner of every single page it had the version or something like that, so you didn't have to jump around. Oh, look like that. It's exactly what I was looking for. Uh, yeah, there's a whole bunch that you have to do whenever you create a new character. Um, I've kind of covered class. The hub class is your foundation. Um, I haven't really touched on that. Your like heritage is actually two things. It's your ancestry and your community, which has impacts. I've kind of skipped these for now because they're complex. But uh, you can choose your traits, which I've already got. Um, Set your thresholds and your hope. Each class will start with a threshold and um, uh, oh, and you take two hope to start the game. That's a great little detail that I don't think I've ever noticed. I'm going to take that over here into my general notes section because I don't think I've ever really noticed that. Take two hope to start the game after creation. That's awesome. It's like we're all beginning just a little bit more hopeful. Uh, let's continue. You choose your weapons. I've included that. You choose your armor. I've included that. Inventory. There's not really anything in here that directly impacts your survivability or your um, uh, um, like kind of damage numbers or anything like that. It's more for flavor or if you want extra stamina or like health. Um, then your description, and then your domain cards. This is where um, the primary value of doing something like this is really going to come out because I think there's going to be a couple of domain cards, which is basically the types of skills and whatnot that you can have. I think if you choose the right ones and like you have the right kind of class and heritage and all that, I think we can build some pretty OP approaches to this. Uh, Answer background questions. That's just a great thing for flavor. I'm not really going to include that. Experiences are a cool idea. And like it feels like you can do uh, a roll and you get a +2 or a +1 to that, but you have to spend a hope to do it. And if you use a hope on a damage roll, you get advantage. And so I'm not really sure why you'd quote unquote waste your hope, including an experience. But I'll I'll try to like unpack that more, down the road. But uh, record your name and create connections, right? And that's generally the approach. This is all just kind of background information, flavor, everything for like the role play. And I believe I've included everything here. I think I haven't included proficiency. And so I'm gonna go ahead and add that, and I'll add a one next to it because I think down the road we may have, depending on your number of levels, we may have increases to this, or there may be some other things that can give you an increase to that. So let me just go ahead and add that onto my character data points. Um, I, I'm going to put it in the base stats, and I think I'm going to put it under, it's not a weapon. It is more involved with weapons, though. So I'm just going to add it here, drag these over, and then um, I'm going to have to double check my spelling on that. Don't judge me. Pro, not that. FICIENCY. Wow, look at me. Okay. Now let's go ahead and set the base stat to 1, because there may be some other things in here that will um, adjust those, right? You know, like there may be like a heritage that says kind of give 1 to your proficiency or blah, blah, blah. And also, just as we like increase in levels, um, I want to have some other rows here that I add that's like, level 2, level 3, level 4, all the way up to level 10. Or like depending on what types of codexes that, that you pick, you may have some different impacts. So let's just keep going on with the bard thing. Experiences, gold, your class feature. Again, I'm going to kind of ignore this right away. I really only want to pick up your evasion. That's cool. And your 3 thresholds right here, because that's the primary thing that's going to change, right? I think all this other stuff is the kind of things you pick, or it's in these features that could be material, that might not be. Let's just keep going. This is all your suggested. This is your background, your connections. And then this goes into the craziness that's going to come with as you increase in level. If you choose these different things, it looks like you can only choose each one once, but I'm so curious what the survivability difference is, or in between adding like 1 hit point slot, or adding 1 armor slot, or adding 1 evasion. It's going to be quite interesting after I add this in as a drop down option. Um, and, and you pick 2, and then we go just kind of view a chart to see like what that does onto your survivability, right? I, I think this part's going to be really, really interesting to see. And this also just says overall, after you pick 2 of these, increase your severe damage threshold by 2 and choose a new domain deck card. It's like the codexes. I kind of wish they called that the exact same thing. But, and like it does look like you can pick any codex of any level that's equal to you or lower. But anyways, here's all the weapons, here's all the armor. And here's kind of like in general how you play, right? It's like you play guy. All right, so action rules is like the majority of it. Like if you're out of combat, that's going to be the majority of it. You got +1 agility, +1 thief. This is like a example, I guess. If a DM was saying like make a roll to pickpocket, you might have a little bit of back and forth where you say, is it an agility roll? Yes, it is. Can I then apply my thief experience, maybe, is what this is? Um, and I'd have to spend a hope in order to add that experience. That's what it looks like. And now I roll, and I got an 18, and then I add these 2, but because my fear die was higher, it's a 20 with fear, right? So 18 plus 2. And so the DM will then tell you, is a 20 high enough in order to succeed, right? I would guess that 12 is kind of like a good like a 50-50 point because that's like half of 24, or like 13 actually would, or 12.5 would actually be the half. Um, but then also if you roll any of the two same numbers, it's a critical success, right? And it's like you automatically succeed, and you get a hope, and you clear stress, right? And so it's kind of tilted in the favor of kind of doing a little bit better. It's not just like you roll a d20 and like you have a 5% chance to get a 20 and get a critical success. I think with this, I think that critical uh, chance is actually a little bit higher. I was actually doing some off the cuff, uh, you know, types of calculations here where if you have these two dice and they can all roll, 1 through 12, your probability to to roll a 1 is, like 1 out of 12, and then your probability to roll a 1 on the other dice is also, like 1 out of 12. As you have just over like half a percent chance to roll a double 1, right? And so then you total all these up and you get an 8.33% chance to get a, a critical, right? Which is pretty cool because now that's a, a little bit more than the 5% that you had on a d20. Um, and yeah, I, I just kind of think in general, like, you're going to succeed more. But anyways, we'll go back. Um, da, 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 da. I'm still a little confused on if like the damage rolls are with d20s or if they're with action rolls, but um, it says if you make a successful attack, you roll number of weapon dice equal to your proficiency and add them together, right? It's like right now your proficiency is 1, which is probably why we just added that down by the damage stuff, right? Because like you're gonna take whatever these averages are, and then you're going to say times your proficiency, right? Um, I think that's going to be pretty big. Okay, we'll come back. Um, if the attack roll was a critical success, take the maximum potential value of all your damage dice, add it together, and to add it as a modifier onto your damage roll. Okay, and so if the attack was a critical, now you take the I guess you still roll all of your damage dice, and then you add on top of that the total number that you could have rolled, right? And so, like, if I have a D10 as my damage dice, I I roll it, right, and I roll a 5. I have a +2 damage, and so that's a total of 7. But then I got a critical, and so I then add 10 on top of that. I think that's what that's trying to say. Um, Armor, I have a pretty good grasp of this. It's um, it if the attack that's incoming is greater than your evasion score, uh, then you get hit. But then you can take an armor slot in order to reduce the damage by your armor score, right? And so just to unpack that, my evasion score here is 6, and so if a monster attacked me and they only rolled a 4, then they would miss me. I'm like, I wouldn't need to do anything else. That's it. If a monster attacked me and they rolled a 6 or better, then they would hit me, and then they roll their damage dice. Like, let's say that they get 9 points of damage, right? Well, now I'm in a major threshold, and so I would take 2 points of health point damage. Or I could mark off 1 armor slot, and I could reduce the damage by 9, like, which would actually make it 0. Um, a a question that I have is, if I reduce the damage to 0 or below, do I take a stress? Because if you take any damage under your minor, you're supposed to take a stress. Um, and so if I reduce it down to 0 or below, do I even take a stress? Uh, I would assume probably so, because it still like hits you, and if you could totally negate it and not take any negative impact from it, um, it's kind of like, like, what's the point of being hit then, right? Your evasion could be super low and it wouldn't really have any impact. So, anyways, I, I'm actually going to go ahead and put that down on my questions. Over here is, um, do I, uh, does a character take a stress? I think they say mark a stress if the damage incoming is reduced to uh, less than 1. And I'll say via use of an armor slot. Okay, let's continue. Advantage, you add a d6. I think it's going to come in as you try to figure out our kind of damage rolls and stuff. Kind of total DPS and kind of how often do you hit, like in general, like what's your chance to hit and whatnot. Help an ally. You spend a hope and you roll a d6 advantage die and you add it to the ally's action roll, right? And so, again, this is what I'm saying. I don't feel like spending a hope actually helps to use your experiences, because they're way more valuable to add a d6 onto your ally, right? And not just add a +1 to yourself. But anyways, if multiple player characters want to help, they can each spend a hope die to roll a d6, and they take the highest. Right? And that's pretty cool. A tag team roll, each player can choose 1 time per session to spend 3 hope and initiate a tag team move with another PC. When you do, you work with your chosen partner to describe how your 2 characters combine their actions, and you both make separate action rolls. But before resolving, you choose one of the rolls to apply for both your results. Okay. It's like you both roll, and then you probably just say, like, whichever one's better, you decide to go with that roll. I think that's pretty cool. Vulnerable is a condition that allows any rolls against that creature to be at an advantage, which is pretty cool. Restrained, it keeps the target from moving. And temporary, a spell, a condition is temporary. It means the GM can end it by spending fear. That's kind of cool. It's almost like a legendary resistance type of thing, where if like you put somebody to sleep or something like that. I will talk about kind of downtime later, and then I think these are just all the different like, what do they call them? Ancestries. Which pretty cool, and like awesome artwork here, of course. Uh, all the communities, and again, I've already transcribed a good chunk of this in. Um, and then here's your domain cards. Um, and so I, I'm going to need to get into this after I have the base information for each one of the classes, but um, I might need to have like an entirely different tab for this stuff, because each like one of these is not just going to have a direct effect, but um, I can probably say um, like average number of times it can be used in like one session, or like per like long rest, um, and I can come to some sort of high level um, ideas of like what can be done here. But curious. Oh, all right, so these are all the things for the Bard level 1, right? And so I can pick 2 of these cards out of these 3, and out of these 3 in total, I can pick 2 cards. And then I have my foundation, which gives me some options as well. And then I guess at level 2, I can pick 2 more cards, and I can either pick from here, or I can pick from the remaining ones up here. This artwork's a little bit off. I guess it's because this is a huge description, but it's kind of cool how they kind of cut that off just a little bit and make it good. But that's level 2, that's level 3, level 4, level 5. You now get a kind of bump in your specialization as well too, which is kind of cool. 6, 7, 8, you get another bump. 9, and then 10. Let's look at these kind of level 10 god level cards. People know who you are and what you've done. They will treat you differently because of it. Whenever you leverage your notoriety to get what you want, you mark a stress before you roll, and then you add 10 to the result. And so it's not like you roll and then you decide. All food and drinks for you are always free wherever you go. That's awesome. And everything else you buy is reduced in price by 1 chest of gold to a minimum of 1 handful. Wow. That's pretty cool. This card must remain in your loadout, but doesn't count towards your domain card maximum. That's kind of cool. And so like you just kind of get this for free, I guess. It's just always there. An ally within close distance of you deals damage to an enemy. You may make a spellcast roll against the same enemy. Like, I need to figure out what these are, because is it like a action roll, but then you add your spellcasting ability, which I think is presence. On a success, you immediately do the same amount of damage to them as your ally dealt. Oh, that's kind of cool. If your spellcast roll succeeds with fear, you place this card into your vault afterwards. And so I guess you can pull it back out after a short rest, or like take the stress in order to get it back. I don't know, like, it's an interesting question. Over here we have Time Jammer. Make a spellcast roll, and it says 18 here. I don't know. On a success, time temporarily slows to a halt for everyone within far range except for you, It automatically resumes the next time you make an action roll that targets another creature or after a number of minutes equal to your knowledge trait. Interesting. And so if you exceed 18, or like you meet or exceed 18 on your spellcast roll. Okay. Uh, magic immunity. You spend 5 hope, which is all of it, to become immune to magic damage until your next short rest. Wow, that is insane. It doesn't say like magical effects, right? So I wonder if you can still be put to sleep and whatnot. But to be immune to magic damage is incredible. It should probably say until your next short or long rest. Because if you take a long rest, it should also be reset. But once per long rest, you spend 5 hope to cast the spell on 2 or more willing creatures. Until your next short rest, again, probably next short or long rest, any creatures that have this union can always share hit point slots and stress slots between them. Interesting, but probably not that helpful long term. But okay. All right. Well, that's everything for the bard. Again, I just need to go through all the classes real quick and grab just these top level um, evasion and then these. I'll come back and add in the class features and then I'll start um, adding in the other things. So let's go back to our base class data. Druids. Let's pull up the druid. And I'll try to move a little bit quicker here. So evasion is 8. And 4, 9, and 14. 4, 9, and 14. Archie, you can already tell the druid's a little bit more beefy. I just want to hem this. Wild touch. You can perform a harmless, subtle effect that involve nature at will. Oh, you can start a campfire. That's kind of cool. Beast form. Mark a stress to transform into a magical creature in the beast form list, equal to your level or lower. You lose the use of your features. Interesting. Okay. Equipment and domain cards, but you gain the features, attack trait, and armor score of the creature. Holy smokes, this is going to make this such a complex. And you can drop out of this form at any time. Hi, yi, yi. There's so much here. Oh my god. Yeah, this one's probably going to be the one that I look into last because it's going to get so complex with all the different spells and stuff that you're going to have. And then you basically have 3 more spells per level, it looks like, of like different things that you can become, right? Like insane. Yeah, and like you get different types of advantage rolls. Yeah, that's gonna be wild. Okay. I know I said that I'd move quick, but let me just kind of take a peek down here at a couple of these spells. Yeah, like restrain enemies. You can track an enemy and then you gain +2 evasion against them. That's pretty wild. You spend a hope to allow a creature that you can touch to climb walls as easily as walking on the ground below. Wow. Kind of like spider climb for 10 minutes. I think cost a hope. Um, okay. Yeah. Pretty wild. Let's go to Guardian. Okay. Evasion is 6, but then 6, 11, and 16. So 6, 6, 11, and 16. All right. And so like you're going to be hit really often, but you're going to take a lot less hit point damage, right? Once per long rest, you can become unstoppable. It begins as a 4. Um, you either gain resistance to physical. Oh no, you do all these things. You gain resistance to physical damage. It didn't cover the resistance. Um, like right here, it says it's invulnerable. I guess resistance would mean it cuts in half. Uh, you gain an additional d6 to any damage rolls you make, so you basically get advantage. And then if you get advantage as well, then you'd have 2 d6s that you add. You can spend stress to re-roll any single die you've rolled. Anytime you roll your damage dice, you reduce this by 1. Um, when you reduce the value to below 1, or the scene ends, like I kind of get this idea of tracking this, like with the dice, but it almost makes it more convoluted because now you're like, okay, is this dice to then roll with? Is it just to track it? But it's just to track it. It might just be easier to say, like, after you've become unstoppable for the next 4 rolls of your damage dice, all these things exist. And then at level 3, for the next 6 rolls of your damage dice, you get this. I don't know. That might just be kind of easier to say. Let me just kind of go down here real quick. Okay, yeah. I mean, kind of basic kind of things. Let's go on to Ranger. Where's the Ranger at? Ranger. Oh, evasion 10. Wild. So 10 and then 4, 9, 14. So I'm like looking here and then here. So 10, 4, 9, 14. 10, 4, 9, 14. And again, I can't resist, so I just need to peek. You spend hope to make an attack with your weapon. On success, you temporarily put Ranger's focus on the target. Almost like Hunter's Mark, you know precisely what direction they are in. All damage rolls you make, add a d6. All damage rolls, and so not like not like to hit. On a missed attack, you may end to re-roll your duality dice and take the new. Interesting. And so it's like if you've missed it, you can drop the focus to then roll it again. And so this hope that you spent back here is super valuable. But God, I mean, like the fact that you can do that over and over again. So like you kind of spend a hope and like you make an attack, and then if you hit, that's awesome because now you can add this thing that then On the next attack, if you miss, then you just get to drop it, and you get to totally re-roll it, which is way better than just having a plus, like 1d6, right? It's like an entire like re-roll, which is like true advantage. But um, I mean that's like having a whole nother d12. It feels like, because you get 2 rolls in order to get it. Anyways, we'll keep moving. I keep getting derailed. There's so much here to dig through, which is really fun. All right. We have a 7 for evasion, and then 5, 10, 15. That makes it easy. 5, 10, 15. Okay. I'm just going to peek. Prayer dice. What's prayer dice? At the beginning of a session, you roll a number of d4 equal to your spell cast trait, which is always going to be, hang on, strength. I'm curious if it's going to change down here. No. Okay. Let's go all the way back up. Sorry about that. So if your strength is 2, like you roll 2d4 and you store them on the right. You can exhaust them at any time to use their value in reducing incoming damage, adding to a roll result, or exchanging them for that many hope that you can give to any player. Wow, that's pretty sick. Clear these dice at the end of a session. Wow. And so if you have 2 strength, you get a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 8 hope to give out to anybody. And hope is basically giving, if any of those people have a spell that they have to use hope to like cast or anything like that. But also you can also use hope to give anyone a kind of d6 advantage. It's pretty sick. That's awesome. Okay, let's move on. It's a great support character. On to Rogue, which again should have the highest evasion, which is sick, but then 4, 9, 14. So 12, 4, 9, 14. I mean, that's wild. I feel like evasion's way overpowered. Especially because the Ranger has the same, but they have even higher evasion. And then that's not even without the leather armor. But 4, 9, 14, and 12. Jeez. Okay. Class features. Hide. If you move into a location where there's no enemies, you are hidden. Unable to be directly targeted by attacks. Any rolls against you at disadvantage. As a rogue, when you are hidden, targets also can't see you, even if they move into line of sight. If you attack or move, you're no longer hidden. If you leave hidden to make an attack, the roll has advantage. Oh, that's pretty sick. And so you just hide all the time. Sneak attack. If you have advantage on a roll, or an ally is in melee, always add a d8. Always add a d8 on your damage roll. Wow. When you use sneak attack, you may also spend any number of hope die before the attack roll. If it's a success, you also add a number of d8 equal to the hope spent. Whoa, so you can drop 5d8 because you can drop 5 hope into it, plus another d8 because you have advantage, and you're super likely to hit. That's pretty awesome. I wonder, on your attack, like, if you're a finesse person and, like, you have a dagger and it's a finesse weapon, right? It's gonna be 2 to finesse plus, um, a a d6, so you're gonna begin with a +3, right? But then if you increase your finesse, you're gonna super likely to hit, and that you're just gonna drop all of your hope into it. That's gonna be pretty sick. And you're super unlikely to be hit. It's also awesome. Spend 2 hope to conjure throwing blades that strike any enemies close to you. Spellcast roll of finesse. That's kind of cool. And all targets that succeed against you take. Oh, all targets that you succeed against take D10. Any targets that are currently vulnerable, they take D20. Um, that's a cool little thing. I think this is confusing, but I kind of get this is like early artwork. But this is the bard items as well. Um, but I think these are different. No, I think they are the same because this is yeah, like this is the grace thing, which I guess both bards and the rogues have access to. Okay, let's keep moving. Sorcerer. I just blew right past it, didn't I? So evasion 9, 3, 8, 13. 9, 3, 8, 13. Let's just quickly view the class feature. Arcane Sense, you can sense the presence of magical people and objects if you're close to them. I think that's awesome. Like, you know, you don't have to cast a spell like that's like um, locate magical objects or like anything like that. You can just kind of tell that they're magical. Minor illusion, you make a spellcast roll, and on success, you create a minor visual illusion no larger than yourself within close range that's convincing to anyone in far range or further. Huh. Channel raw power. Once per long rest, you can place a domain card from your loadout into your vault. Okay. And you gain hope equal to the level of the card, or you add magic damage equal to twice the level of the card to a spell attack you successfully cast. Kind of weird, because like as a sorcerer, you want as many of those as you can, you know, just to have more options. And so it's odd that it's like if you get rid of one, then you get something. Yeah, it does look like each class has access to kind of 2 of these. Okay. Warrior is next. Grab that. evasion at 10, and then 5, 10, 15. So evasion at 10, 5, 10, 15. Um, a battle strategist. Whenever you're making a roll to physically hinder a creature that isn't a weapon attack, so a shove, a trip, blah, blah, you can spend a hope to have advantage. And that's what I don't get. I feel like you can spend a hope to have advantage anyways, but I guess this is saying if you're trying to do that and you spend a hope, you get this extra damage um, on success. And so it's basically saying if you spend a hope to get advantage, yeah. It's kind of like worded weird, where it's like it might just be better to say if you spend a hope to gain advantage to physically hinder, and it's not a weapon attack, you can also deal damage. Anyways, combat training. Ignore burden when equipping weapons. Whoa, I need to add that into my spreadsheet. Oh, wow. Um, it, it's like you can carry two-handed weapons, and you may place primary weapons in your secondary weapon slot. Always add additional physical damage equal to the value of your level when you attack. Oh, man. I'm not going to include any of these features yet, but that one is pretty sick because you just get an extra damage, right? Like an extra +1 or +2 to your damage. And then you can place primary weapons in your secondary slot. So let's just go over here and just kind of um, imagine for a moment. Let's just kind of see if there's any weapons that are two-handed. Yeah, like all of these. Yeah, all of these are two-handed. And also the longbow is two-handed. This is kind of funny. Um, but it, especially this one and this one. Oop. That one and that one. Here. I think I can do it this way. That one and that one. Yeah. Or they both get a +2 to their damage. And yeah, you can kind of carry them both. And you can also do this where I could carry one rapier in like one hand, and I can carry another rapier in my other hand. I can get +2 agility. That's pretty sick. Or I could carry a lot of these are two-handed. And let me just kind of like quickly grab the ones that are two-handed. Oh, you know what a way better way to do this would be? There you go. View, freeze, one column. Let's just go ahead and say two columns. Yoink. And then view, freeze, one row. So now I can say, I mean, like if I just look here, I mean, right, that's two-handed. I kind of carry that in like my main hand, and then I could carry this in my offhand, or like even this in my offhand. you know, and like a great staff has um, very far range, right? And then I could carry like a thing like this with D10s in my main hand, right? And so then I could be like awesome in melee, but then awesome at like a distance or like an axe in my offhand. That's pretty wild, but I don't really see anything that looks like OP just like right off the bat. Because the only thing that would be super valuable is to have this like +1 to attack rolls. Because like it says like only with this weapon. And so it's not like I could add this and I could get a +1 to like battle axe or anything like that. But then also, um, like I could double up on rapiers to get an extra agility. I mean, that's not anything too crazy. Yeah, I mean, like this one kind of seems like the coolest. Like where I could just have like an awesome kind of D10 thing in my offhand, but I almost feel like the short sword along with this is even better because now I have some physical damage in my offhand, and then I also still have a +2 to primary damage, right? And so I don't see anything that makes it super valuable to have um to have this. Like the only thing that is really cool is you just kind of add some extra physical damage, you know. Um, yeah. Okay, that's cool. Again, got derailed. Apologies for that. Let me go back to base class data. Wizard. So let's get rid of warrior. Open up wizard. Kind of take a peek here. We have 8 evasion and 2 7 12. 8 evasion, 2 7 12. So lowest of the thresholds, and so like you're going to be hit really hard. You have in between evasion, so you're like higher than the guardian and the sheriff, but you have way less thresholds, way less thresholds. So you're super squishy, which is expected of a wizard. But like, yeah, uh, prestidigitation. You can perform harmless, subtle magic effects at will, like kind of changing an object's color, creating smell, lighting a candle, floating something small, blah blah. That's pretty cool. Strange patterns. You choose a number between 1 and 12. Anytime you roll that number on a duality die, gain a hope or clear a stress. That's pretty cool. On either of the duality dies. I mean, that seems pretty OP. You may change this number on any long rest, right? And so if you just say, my number is 6. Anytime that I roll a 6 on either of the duality die, I automatically gain an extra hope, or I can clear a stress. Um, I mean, that's pretty awesome. Might be better to pick something like, well, no, it's all like the exact same amount of time. But I'm trying to think like if you're in a hard spot, like if you roll a 12 on a fear dice, it might be nice to be able to like offset it by also getting a hope, you know. But I don't know, who knows? Okay. Again, I just want to peek. Go all the way down to the first level. Yikes. Tons of stuff here. Tons and tons of stuff. Yeah, it kind of looks like I need to do like, kind of codex, um, Splendor. Like I need to like unpack all these kind of capabilities and stuff per area. And I think I've done a tab for foundations. Let me just see. Yeah, I've done like the like the level 1 foundations. Um, I'll probably add one left here and just say level. Because this is like level 1. And then I'll probably have like a couple of columns, and I'll have like a level 2, no, I'm sorry, not level 2, like level 5 and level 8, whatever. Because these are crazy. But I need a whole nother tab for each one of these things and each one of their levels, right? It's going to be like, kind of codex level 1, codex level 2, codex level 3, codex level 4. And it's just going to have all these different cards in a spreadsheet. Um, what are these things called? Domain cards. Yeah. I'll just add a whole new tab, and I'm going to call it domain. I'll call it, domain data. It looks like I added that twice. Let's delete this. And in domain data, I'm going to have like domain level name, or like card name, and then have card effect 1, card effect value. Right. I'm going to have to like unpack that for every single one of the cards, right? Like, hopefully this is easier, where it's like action roll, spellcast roll. Okay, cost can either be like hope or stress, right? It's gonna be like cost type. And so I'll say like cost type and cost amount, right? And so let's just say like it's a hope and it's going to cost 1, right? That's the type of thing that I'm thinking here, right? Like you spend a hope to do blankety blank blank, and it's going to be like spell damage and card effect 1 dice. It's like, for instance, here it's a D8. 1d8. And like the value would be like an average, right? And so you'd be like, ooh, like 4.5 here. I don't know. I'm gonna try to find a way to like a spellcast roll to target within far range. Jeez. So I have to say like range, right? Let's just go ahead and put this on there. Splendor is the domain, and the level is 1, and the card name is Bolt Beacon. And put the range there, and also role type. It's a spellcast. And I probably need to, I'm gonna have to go look up your spellcast type off of your class, off your foundation even. And then I'll have to say it's a spellcast role, and then go look that up, and then look up your number. But because this can probably be like action roll or damage roll. I don't know, like we'll figure that out. To send a shimmering bolt of light towards them, a bolt of shimmering light towards them. You treat it like a ranged weapon. You deal D8 magic damage. I'm going to say magic damage and not spell damage. They grow blight and become temporarily vulnerable. And so card effect 2 temporarily vulnerable. I'll just add these down here to say NA on the dice and NA on the value. And I'll just have to account for that in some way, right? And so that's basically what I'm going to do for every single card. Is I'm going to break it down into things that I can then include into like an action roll. But just with what we have, we can already get a general idea of rough estimates for impacts. So I might need to go through all of the level 1 all the level 1 domains and kind of get some rough data. But it looks like what we can do now is I have a decent start where if all these are zeroed, I can come in here and I can say, I want to make a seraph. I'm going to be a winged sentinel. I can then choose whatever my ancestry that I'd like to be. I can choose my community, and those don't have any effect yet. I can choose my armor. I can then choose my information here. So agility, strength. Biggest. Actually, I want my finesse to be 2. So let me just go here. choose that to be true. Instinct, and I'll say my presence and knowledge are zeros. Okay. And I want I think it's a short sword that gets a +1 to hit. A long sword. Is that two-handed? It is two-handed. Yes, and maybe that's one of the benefits, is if I can do this, and then in my offhand, I can hold a dagger. Yeah, that may be pretty sick. A short sword in your offhand. Yeah, but anyways. What did I say? If I pick a rapier in my main hand, I get +1 agility. The D8. Oh, but I forget. Like my main attribute as a you know what, like I think it'd be interesting, like right here, just to quickly pull the default value of the foundation. Right. Um, I think that'd be kind of valuable to see, because if I'm gonna pick if I'm gonna pick as if I'm gonna pick a seraph, it might be helpful to just kind of quickly see, oh yeah, it's nice if I pick strength, because it's gonna help me with my spell casting. So um, I'm gonna quickly add that here. Oop, not there. That's my character data in my inputs. Spell casting. I forget what we call it. I'm just gonna make it equal to the foundations. Yep, I'm just gonna make it equal to that. And then I'm gonna do a quick X lookup. X lookup on my foundation in my foundation list. So here, and then I want to return my attribute strength. So I'm going to turn this blue so that I know it's connected. And yeah, I'm just going to display that. And so now if I pick like Ranger, I now immediately know that agility is more interesting to me. It might be nice. Well, I think we can see down here, right? Like, if I go back to Seraph and I choose the Winged Sentinel, I can now know that my spell casting is strength. And so now I might want to change this to also pick one that's a strength-based weapon. So, like, average damage is only 1. That can't be right. So Battle Axe. Let's look over here on my average damage. It says 7. Oh, maybe that's still. It says RR, and that can't be right. Yeah. I need to pull S. And that's pulling T9. Let me just double check. T9, 10, 11. And then this should be W. as it is. Okay. X, Y, and Z 10. X, Y, and Z 10. Okay. All right. So now let's go back over here to say, okay, so a battle axe is 7.5. Oh, I should probably change my armor if I'm going to be a strength based armor person. But if I pick something that's one-handed but also strength based, so that's also two-handed. Mace, strength based. It looks like my uh, agility is impacted the by the warhammer and the greatsword. Let's just double check that since we're still early on. Yes, you get -1 agility from that. But if I can find a two-hand, no, I'm sorry, a one-handed strength, which it kind of looks like the only one is the mace. Okay, so let's just choose the mace, and let's pick a round shield as my offhand, so I get some extra armor. And like, it displays this, it displays my trait. Cool, it's all pretty good. And so because of that, I'm also going to change this to be, I kind of like my presence is probably higher, and I probably have more knowledge, I would hope. Now it's just, is my instinct or my agility lower? Let's just say that I have low agility, you know, and then my finesse. I don't know why, but kind of finesse feels a little bit more like it should be a -1. My agility can be 0. How about that? That's pretty cool. All right. Well, now I'm at 2 hours in. I'm probably going to take a break here. I see that there's a person on the stream. Thanks for joining me for just a little bit. Um, I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to probably come back and try to make my first actual um, a, a, a kind of damage calculator where I'm just going to take a look at average damage that comes from my primary and my secondary, add them together. Um, and I'm also just going to put like a little bit of modifier on my range, because if I'm only if I'm only able to do damage if I'm inside of melee range, um, I'm I'm just going to want it to be the damage that it is. But if that range can get further and further out, then it has more like utility. I'm like more likely to be able to hit people all around the battlefield, and so I'm gonna increase that damage by like a modifier, but I'll include that on like a modifier tab, um, and so that it's just more clear. But kind of based off of the kind of types of class and everything that I've picked here, I want to increase the damage, but I also need to include my chance to hit, right? And so, like, depending on what your strength is, it's going to change your percentage chance to hit. And so we'll include the chance to hit, the chance to crit, and also um, average kind of damage rolls into that. So all of that will be coming up in the next stream. I'll try to put that into my plan here. I'm going to take probably about a 20-minute break, and I'll be back in a little bit. Thanks.